Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about different side hustles that I do as an actor living in New York City. But before I get into it, I want to go a little back into my history. I've talked about it a little bit on this channel, but if you're new or newer to me, I want to tell you about my past, why I created this channel, and then we'll get into different little side jobs I have to support myself. So, for starters, I'm 45. I've been living in New York City for about 15 years now. I did live here before though. So originally, theater was my goal. It's what I wanted to do, specifically musical theater. I went to a college called University of the Arts in Philadelphia, which actually just officially closed. I can't even imagine what the students that were going there for musical theater are going to do now. Do you know anything about this? Let me know in the comments below. But anyway, I went there originally when I graduated from high school in 1997. Yes, I know. I'm old. I'm old. It's okay. And I really didn't like it. I had a really bad experience there, so I dropped out. For about a half a year there, between when I dropped out of college and when I ended up going to Atlantic Theater Company in Manhattan for their 2-year conservatory program. If you didn't know, Atlantic Theater Company is part of NYU, and you could go to their 2-year program or you could go to them through NYU to their 4-year program. I did not get into NYU. I went through their 2-year program. But in the meantime, in between time, I did the Broadway Dance Center scholarship program. I auditioned a lot. I took a lot of acting classes. And then when I finished Atlantic Theater Company, I moved to Los Angeles and was there for 5 years. From there, I toured with different companies, Sesame Street Live, My Little Pony Live, another small show called A Kid's Life. And I moved back to New York, and about less than a year after I got back here, the economy crashed. This was in 2008. The economy crashed. All of a sudden, a bunch of shows closed. There was no auditions, so I decided to go back to college. I was living on Long Island with my parents, going to college on Long Island. And during this time is when I met my husband. He lives in Midtown Manhattan in New York City. We weren't married yet. That would come later. But we started dating, and soon after my college ended, I moved into New York City with my then boyfriend, who 6 years later became my husband. So living in Midtown Manhattan, and I feel very blessed and lucky to be able to live right where all the action is. I was able to hustle and audition. I used to go to EPAs, open calls. Up until the pandemic, I was auditioning and doing some other things as well, which I'll tell you about momentarily. But come the pandemic, that kind of changed everything for me. So I want to say I do not hustle as much as I used to. I have other goals and passions right now, but when an audition comes up, I am more than able to go. I can create my own schedule now, and I wanted to share a little bit with you guys in case you're moving to New York City or you're living in New York City and you have no idea how to work and then also get to auditions. I wanted to share with you my side hustles as a New York City actress. So first, let's rewind again. When I started out, there was no web design. Amazon just sold books, for heaven's sakes. There wasn't as much side hustles as you could do. There really wasn't much you could do on the web unless you'd gotten like a 4-year degree in actual coding or something like that. So really, I feel like when I started out, you had 2 options. You could waitress / bartend, or you could do temp work. And the temp work never made sense to me because that is a 9-to-5 job. So if you were to somehow get a last second audition, you'd never be able to go. With waitressing, you kind of run into similar conflicts as temping, not to the same degree, because usually waitressing shifts are either during the day till like 3 or at night from like 3 to whenever, or unless you work at a nightclub in which you have much later shifts. But when you do that, how are you supposed to wake up at 6 a.m. to get to an open call? It's crazy. But nonetheless, waitressing is how I supported myself through the bulk of my 20s. After I went back to college in my 30s, after the economy crashed, I went back to college. And when I graduated, I was done with waitressing. So what I started to do was background work. That way, I was getting paid to be on sets. I could get my medical insurance because I was in the union at that point, SAG-AFTRA. I could get pension points for retirement one day. And honestly, it was just fun. The big problem with that is once you're booked, you're booked. If you cancel, it's very frowned upon. So it can be hard to maneuver auditions around that as well. However, you choose when you want to work. So I was able to do that with a few scattered auditions for many, many years. I made a great solid living that way. And then the pandemic happened. And I feel like since the pandemic, the industry has shifted. I feel like a lot of auditions now are done through video submissions submitted over the internet. And it's actually not quite as hard to have a full-time job and hustle your auditions as it used to be, since you can do a lot of the auditioning in your own hours at home. But nonetheless, for callbacks and all of that jazz, you're going to need to be available. So now it's time. Let's share with you the side hustles I do to support myself as an actress. But before we get into it, I want to encourage you to please hit the like and subscribe button with the notification bell on. That notification bell will alert you every time I post a video. I try and be consistent. It's hard, so it's good to have that bell on, especially if you like me. All right, let's get into it. Side hustle number 1. I still do that background work. It is not as easy for me as it used to be, but I'm still able to get a few days a month. And if that is something you guys were interested in, here are some things that make it easier. 1, if you happen to have a car, and oftentimes these background jobs will ask if you're available with your car. Other props are great too. I have an NYPD uniform that I work with a lot. Also, I've worked with a stroller before, and I have multiple evening gown options, multiple business suit options. Basically, the more options you have for this type of work, the more work you're gonna get. Also, you could luck out and be the perfect type or size for someone, so you could end up getting photo double jobs or stand-in jobs, which can be more regular and consistent work. I'm not gonna lie, background work can be long, crazy hours. When I was younger, I used to love it. I was just so happy to be on set. Now that I'm a little older, I have to admit, I am a little bitter. And while I enjoy doing it from time to time, I don't even know if I personally would want to do it on a regular basis anymore. But it's definitely great money to come in from time to time, whether you're union or non-union, because honestly, the non-union pay is not that bad now. You just don't build up the credit for health and pension. My number 2 side hustle, this one is the obvious one. I teach flexibility and aerial silks, basically fitness classes at Body and Pole in New York City. Now, when I first got into this, I was teaching 5 classes, and I would also sub a lot. And that's not even that many classes. A lot of my friends at the studio, a lot of my fellow staff members teach not just at Body and Pole, but elsewhere. And when I first got into this, I was like, oh, I would just teach all the time if I could do this. But it's very hard on the body. So during the pandemic, one thing I did was I got an ACE certification for both personal training and group fitness classes, and I did a work study program at my studio. That's how I became a teacher. And I could technically become a fitness teacher at other studios. Like, I know enough about different exercises, about strength training and other fitness modalities to teach more classes. But the thing is, it's a lot of wear and tear on the body. I find that for me, about 5 classes is my max for aerial silks and flexibility. And also, when I teach this, it means I have to train this stuff also, which, especially with the silks where you need certain equipment for, unless this is your life and you're trying to become a solid aerialist to get an aerial job in a show, this is kind of a hard side hustle to keep up. Right now, I'm on a substitute only basis. I usually only teach 1 or 2 classes a week. Sometimes I work the front desk, but I enjoy picking and choosing when I want to work much more for my body. But again, you don't have to know aerial silks. You can just get ACE certified and get a job at a place like Equinox. They actually help train their fitness instructors. So it is a great side hustle job in a sense that when you go, you teach for an hour and then you can leave, or maybe you'll teach 2 classes in a row, but then you have a bunch of time after that. So that is number 2 of my side hustle jobs. And number 3, YouTube. No, not this channel yet. I really want this channel to be monetized soon. It's really hard to create content for you guys though, because I'm pushing out the aerial silks tutorials, the aerial hoop tutorials, and flexibility tutorials. I gotta wanna feel like moving my body on top of my regular training where I move my body. Also, getting access to studio space to demo some of this stuff can be really challenging in New York City. Space is a hot commodity here, and it's not often easily available. But I have another YouTube channel that is about cruise travel. It's called Laurie and Gary Cruise. Check it out if you enjoy cruising. And I do that with my husband, and that is now monetized, and it's not enough to pay all the bills yet, but it is growing. It is definitely a small percentage of my income right now, and I want to continue to make it bigger and bigger. And I would say right now, that is my number 1 passion. That's sort of pushing acting out of the way, which is why I don't audition as much as I used to. I am spending a lot of time on the YouTube. And finally, my last side hustle, the Amazon Influencer Program. If you don't know what that is, there are a million tutorials that tell you, and I don't mind making a tutorial about it either. If that's something you're interested in, definitely let me know in the comments below. But basically, I was looking into the Amazon Associates program so I could create an Amazon storefront and make commission off of different Amazon products. And while I was learning how to do that, I stumbled across this influencer program, which is basically being approved by Amazon to make shoppable Amazon videos for different Amazon products. And I've been working on that, and that as well is nowhere near a sustainable income right now, but every month it grows and grows and grows, and it's definitely turning into a solid little source of income. And finally, another thing, I almost forgot to talk about this. I take photos of aerialists. What was I thinking? So another thing I did during the pandemic was buy a camera. And I've also bought a lot of lenses because if you know, the camera doesn't make the photos, the lenses do. But one thing I noticed for myself when I performed as an aerialist and for my fellow aerialist friends is that the whenever we got our professional photos back, whoever was taking the photos always miss the height of the pose because the photographer is usually not an aerialist. They're usually an amazing photographer, so the composition is always great, but having that eye to know when a person is going to hit the peak of their split or their back bend is hard and something maybe only a fellow dancer or aerialist would know. So I started taking photos. I've been working really hard at it, and occasionally I'm asked to do a photo shoot here, a photo shoot there, mostly of performances, but it's definitely been a few $100s a month, which is also great. So yeah, I do all of this. In addition, occasionally other random gigs come up. Sometimes I work the front desk at my studio to help out. Sometimes a friend asks me to help out with a project they have and pays me a little bit of cash. But yeah, that's how I've been able to survive and audition when I want and get by in New York City. Do you have any questions about any of these? Please, again, let me know in the comments below. And one more time, I have to remind you to hit the like and subscribe button with the notification bell on. And let me know, do you like this style of video? Or do you want me to stick to strictly flexibility and aerial tutorials? Let me know as well, because I love sharing my life with you. I have day in the life vlogs posted. I could also do more what I eat in the day posts. I don't know. I could do Manhattan posts, going to the theater posts. You guys let me know. I answer to the people. Anyway, that's all for this evening. Until the next time, you have a fit and fabulous day. Bye-bye.